can't do that at a state level. The laws mandate that every state must come in with a balanced budget. So we have a real Weisenheimer up in Albany.
This is an amazing story that it's one man right now who's essentially holding up the state budget. Think about that. Just, it's a voluminous budget. Of course, there's so many layers to it, including education. And that's something that one of the state senators is holding up on a topic that was a hot topic that's coming back in the news big time.
Well, Simcha Felder.
I couldn't wait, by the way. I've been waiting all morning to hear you pronounce it because I knew you were going to have the appropriate accent, Curtis.
He's the free agent there, so he'll pledge his loyalty to either the Republicans or Democrats in the state Senate, which could mean that if he sided with one or the other, they'll be in the majority. So he has basically said, even though our state is looking at a potential debt of $4 billion, so you got to trim a lot of potential expenses in order to come in with a balanced budget, that he is not going to allow the bill to go forward for the budget because the state wants to impose upon the yeshivas, mostly in the Hasidic community, but some Orthodox schools, that you must abide by the standards that every other parochial school, every other private school must do in the state of New York. And Simcha Felder has basically said, no, keep your stinking hands off our yeshivas. You should not intervene. Don't tell us how we should teach our kids. And a lot of average, everyday people are saying, what? We shouldn't demand that the kids be taught English and science and math and the basic things they're going to be able to need in order to function in society. And why should you have this exemption when no other private school, no charter school, no parochial school has this exemption? And basically, Simcha Felder has said to everyone, tough noogies. Our yeshivas don't have to do it the New York State way.
Well, and that's the whole issue. It's the whole religion versus state, because some of these yeshivas don't even basically teach basic English almost. Like the language, the level, they said, and some of the new reports have shown such an unbelievable disparity in terms of the quality of education. And the state is saying, listen, we want to make sure, and rightly so, that all of our kids are educated, they're well prepared. And then the argument from your good friend, the state Senator Felder, saying essentially, no, we should have control over it. It's a religious issue. Of course, here is Good Friday. It's a religious issue, and it's something that we should have control over. So is there any merit? Should the state stay out of the yeshivas? Should they butt out? Is there anybody out there who agrees with the state Senator Felder that this is the right thing to do? I think the state has a responsibility to educate these kids.
Well, the state law, Rita Cosby, is clear. Private school education must be at least substantially equivalent to that of the public schools. For elementary school students, that means at least the 12 common school branches of arithmetic, reading, spelling, writing, the English language, geography, U.S. history, civics, hygiene, physical training, the history of New York State, and science. That is very clear. And what Simcha Felder has said is, well, if you're going to impose that upon us, because we have pressured the mayor of the city of New York, Mayor de Blasio, not to impose that on us through the Department of Education, a.k.a. dumbest organization ever, then I'm not going to allow the budget to pass.
Although, on the other hand, there are a number of these religious groups who say, listen, we like to have control over what we're teaching our kids. Don't tell us what to do. And that's the message.
Then give us back the millions of dollars that you get in federal money. Give us back the millions of dollars that you get in state money.
And don't hold up the budget.
So whether it's in Lakewood, New Jersey, whether it's in Orange County or Rockland County in New York State and other locations in Brooklyn, you get millions of dollars in Pell Grants, millions of dollars of other taxpayers' money. And you need to follow the rules just like every other private school, charter school, or parochial school. If not, you shouldn't be getting a nickel, dime, or penny. Let's go to Peter, first up in the queue, calling from New Jersey. Welcome to Curtis and Rita Cosby here at WABC. Peter.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, guys. Hey, look, Curtis, here's the bottom line. The yeshivas don't need the government to come in there and teach our kids anything. We don't want to know any more propaganda about the nonsense that everyone is brainwashing the children these days. We don't want any of it. Get the state out of the yeshiva.
Okay, then give us back the tax dollars.
Yeah, would you?
Peter, give us back
be
the
giving
millions.
up the money?
Yeah, we'll be happy to give back the.
Oh no, they don't. They want more. They want more.
We don't want any more. We don't want no more illegal immigration. We don't want no more nonsense. We don't want no more left-wing crooks.
Whoa. Wait, Peter, let me ask you a question. Do you honestly think the yeshivas would be willing to forego the money? No way.
Oh, yeah. We should support and fund ourselves. We don't need the government.
And by the way, that's a solution. So, you know what? That is a solution that Peter has. If they do agree to fund themselves, then they can basically do what they want at that point.
All those school buses that you see taking the Booker boys and Booker girls to yeshiva, who pays for those yellow school buses?
Well, that's the question.
We do.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's an unrealistic thing to say.
So if you don't want to follow the rules, then you don't get any more money. And in fact, we want monies back.
Whoa! See, that ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna happen. Back. The only thing is, I understand the wanting to respect religious rights, so I understand where they're coming from. But you can't have it both ways and want the funds and still want autonomy.
You're existing in New York State. There are rules and regulations of a mandated educational curriculum. If you don't like it in New York State, move somewhere else. Maybe Montana will allow you there, or Idaho, or Wyoming, because they'd welcome the population. But if you're in New York, you follow the rules like every other school has to follow the rules.
But what about being respectful of religion? Let's go to Rabbi Leibowitz, who's here on Curtis and Cosby, here calling from Brooklyn. Rabbi, go ahead.
Okay, there's one thing I don't understand. As in my opinion, 50% successful business people in the tri-state area are Hasidic people. So what in the world does the government want to intervene with the business now? As of my opinion, they should leave the yeshivas alone.
All right, but Rabbi, with all due respect,
give back the millions of dollars you get in tax dollars, Rabbi.
Would you consider giving back the money then? I understand the respecting religion. I absolutely have tremendous respect for that. But would you then be willing to give up the funds so then you could have the autonomy?
What does the funds have to do with anything?
What does the funds have to do? Oh, so you got your black hat in one hand, you're taking the tax dollars, and then you're basically saying to the taxpayers, F you, we'll do anything we want to do. We don't got to follow the rules.
What are you talking about? Do you think we don't pay taxes? Of course we pay taxes.
Wait a second. Is the law clear to you, Rabbi, that every school, private, charter, parochial, yeshiva, must follow the rules? Do you understand that, Rabbi?
Yes, of course I understand that.
Okay, so then why won't you...
We give proper education.
Well, that's your opinion. If your kids can't speak English, if they can't do math, if they can't do science, if they can't function in the real world, then you're able to keep them in your own little world, and you're then almost guaranteeing that they're not going to break out and join the secular community. That's part of the reason for this.
Well, and that is part of the reason. And listen, I think we have to respect religious rights, but then you can't. I understand your point, Curtis, about funds.
Look, Booker boys, Booker girls can daven and learn Torah and Talmud all day long.
And that's important.
But they got to get the basics. Reading, writing, arithmetic, learning the history of New York State, the history of America. These must be incorporated into their curriculum.
And I think it is commendable that the state wants to make sure those standards are high to prepare them. I understand
I'm not sure if Cuomo or de Blasio are, because they've never dropped the hammer on these yeshivas.
Well, you know why. Politics,
Well, yeah, because they vote in blocks, and yet they'll take Pell Grants. Millions and millions of dollars. 1-800-848-WABC.
Chasing it down every day. Live.
News of the day is Simcha Felder. The state senator.
It takes about 5 seconds just to get to the first name with you.
It's like Yasser Arafat, right? You go, Arafat.
That would have been a big hat.
Dear. You can go on and on. Sometimes I think I'm going to choke myself out.
I think so, too, or I'm going to gag laughing, hearing you. Oh, my God.
But imagine one legislator, Simcha Felder, say there'll be no budget unless you call off the educational watchdogs. They are not to come in our yeshiva and make sure that we are up to snuff on the state educational standards. Let's go, if we can, read it to Robert, who's calling from Brooklyn. Welcome to Curtis and Rita here at WABC. Bobby.
Hi, Robert.
Hi, how you doing? I love you, Curtis. I love your show.
What about Rita? You don't love me?
I love you too.
Thank you. It's okay to say you. I'm not going to accuse you of sexual harassment. Don't worry.
Fine. Okay.
Okay.
I'd just like to make one comment. We don't get any discounts or any tax deductions because we send our kids to yeshivas. We have to pay all the taxes, and the government saves millions and millions of dollars. Now, if they don't want children to learn certain subjects, I don't blame them.
Well, now, Robert, are you familiar with the community Kiryas Joel up in Orange County run by the Satmars?
Yes.
The poorest community in America. That means poorer than those communities in the Appalachians. Why? Because everyone's getting snaps. They're on welfare. They run their own schools, and they don't want to prescribe to state regulations. That is a shanda.
Okay, maybe to you, but maybe to them it's not.
Oh, so we need to subsidize them so they get to study Torah and Talmud all day and don't have to go out and get a job like everybody else.
Are they hurting anybody?
Oh, yeah, just taken from the taxpayers, right? Are they able-bodied? Are they capable of working?
Listen, I agree that everybody should work and make a living, but if it's going to affect religiosity...
How does that affect religiosity? There are other religious people who work. If they go to shul or synagogue or church, or they just have a moment of contemplative reflection in the house, they can be just as religious.
Okay, but like I said, we're paying millions of dollars of money for schooling.
And who's paying for the food stamps? And who's paying for the welfare, huh? That's the rest of us.
I'm not getting anything. I'm not getting a penny.
They didn't say you are, but I pointed out one community it is.
No, that's a great point. And by the way, Robert, what about the point of state funding, too? What about the fact, would you agree to no state funding?
Maybe.
Maybe. What do you mean maybe? You don't follow the rules, you don't get nothing. You don't get a shekel.
Okay.
Right? You don't follow the rules, you don't get a shekel. That's the way it should be. How do you like this?
Oh, my God. Actually, that was a good example that you brought up about the effect on all of us. If they can't break the system and they can't move up. And
it's a problem in Israel, too.
And if they are, but there's a lot of very successful Israelis as well, and very successful Jewish population.
Between the secular and the religious community there, where the secular community says, you don't want to serve in the military. You don't want to work. You just want to dive in and study Torah and Talmud all day and get welfare and social assistance and have 10 or 12 kids that the taxpayers have to pay for.
That's a very small amount.
Wrong.
And there's and by the way,
that's a growing number.
Well, I just came back from Israel.
You have 10 or 12 kids each family. That's a growing number when the secular families are only having one kid.
Well, and I just came back from Israel. It is still a very small percentage of Jews. 99.999 are actually in the military and playing a role and doing or at one point in their lives. That's a fact.